Welcome to Rousses, France, location of the 6th round of the World Championship Observed Trial Series. We're about an hour's drive north of Geneva, Switzerland, just inside the southeastern French border, in the heart of one of France's most impressive ski areas. In the winter, people come here to ski at the many ski lodges available, but for this weekend, an estimated 12,000 motorcycle fans came to this little town of 800 to watch the top world riders compete in the race for the World Championship title. The weather was great all weekend until late Sunday when a tremendous thunderstorm raced the riders up the valley to the last section, as you'll soon see in this video. Until then, the skies were clear and the temperature was in the upper 60s Fahrenheit or lower 20s Celsius. 90 riders started this event, 43 finished, and 47 DNF due to time, mechanical, and physical problems. There were 15 sections along an 18-kilometer loop to be ridden 3 times with a 7-hour and 12-minute time limit. Remember, in a world round, there is no grace period for time. To bring you up to date on the current points leader, I'll give the top 10 places in rounds 4 and 5. Round 4, which was held in Ireland, was won by Jordy Terrace with 74 points. Second, Steve Saunders with 76. Third, Eddie Lejeune, 77. Fourth, Diego Bozes with 97. Fifth, Thierry Michaud with 97. Sixth, Tony Scarlett, 105. Seventh, Pascal Couturier, 105. Eighth, Gabino Renales with 106. Ninth, Philippe Berladier with 106. And 10th, Andrew Codina with 109. Round 5, held in Germany, was again won by Jordy Terrace with 110 points. Second, Diego Bozes, 117. Third, Steve Saunders, 129. Fourth, Thierry Michaud, 130. Fifth, Pascal Couturier with 148. Sixth, Thierry Gerard, 159. Seventh, Donato Miglio, 160. Eighth, Andrew Codina, 173. Ninth, Gabino Renales with 181. And 10th, David Marshy with 183. Leading the championship series after 5 rounds is Jordy Terrace with 72 points. Second is Thierry Michaud with 69. Third, Steve Saunders with 63. Fourth, Gabino Renales with 59. And fifth, Diego Bozes with 58. Sections 1 through 5 were muddy, slick rocks located in the woods about 1 kilometer from the start. 6 through 12 were wet, rocky creek sections. 13 and 14 were big, dry rocks down by the lake. And section 15 was a stadium-type section with big rocks and tight trick turns that attracted lots of spectators. This was a very well-organized and festive event, as was last year's French round. This, plus the friendly people and a beautiful geographical location, made this a very enjoyable event. To keep you more informed on the riders and sections, you'll notice that each section includes the total 5s, 3s, and cleans that the riders had, and also the average points lost by each rider in that section. This will let you know right away just how difficult the section will be. These numbers are based on only the riders that finished the event. I will also give each rider's total points for that section as he rides it, plus scores for the top 10 riders if it was not possible to show them riding this section. Dominique Gilliam from Switzerland, going through the hardest part of the section, off camber. Slick rocks there. All these rocks in sections 1 through 5 were in the trees, and they were all really slick. The more riders that rode them, the slicker they became. A little bit of mud in between them. trick right turn there. There's some more slick rocks over to the exit. And Dominic takes a 5, and he DNF'd this event. A lot of spectators here today. Have a nice day. Mario Bernardini from Switzerland. He also DNF'd this event. Kind of a tricky part right there over some slick roots by those trees. A lot of 5s are taken right here at this point. We'll follow a few of the first riders around the first 4 sections just to give you kind of an idea of what these sections are going to be like. Eric Fugere from France on section number 2, which was the hardest section in the trials. A lot of real slick rocks here. The section finally wound up going up this hill, a turn around the tree, and some more turns before you finally got to the exit. Mario Bernardini again. Also had a 5 on this section. Ralph Geisbühler, 5Z entrance. That was a real hard part of this section, right there at the start. Pascal Mathy from Belgium had 3 5s. Was about a 2-minute walk over to section number 3 to watch Stephen Bernhardt on a Fennec from Germany. Very difficult part of this section was a big rock to go over. Steve had 3 5s in this section. Jack Aby from Switzerland, also with 3 5s in this section. Once over the big rock, it was over some more moss-covered slick rocks. The hardest part was about midway through this section to the exit. Ralph Geisbühler, again from Switzerland, had a 5 in this section. Pretty difficult part coming up right here over that big rock. And then a right turn over some larger slick rocks out to the exit. A lot of 5s are taken right here. About another 2 minutes over to section 4. Steve Bernhardt from Germany, the rider. Kind of a trick running section right here. It'll make a real tight, about 90-degree turn to the right. Up over some rocks, back down. Another trick turn, part of the section here to the left. Back up a ledge. And over to the exit. Steve had a 3 on this section. He had a 5 his second loop, and a 3 his third loop. Jack Abbey, Switzerland. A lot of points were taken right here in this trick turn area. And he had 3 5s in this section. A lot of vintage bikes were gathered at this event. And between the sections, we'll try to show you a few different varieties of them. Tony Scarlett Back to section number 1 now to catch the top riders through. Tony had a 1 his second loop and a 1 his third loop on section number 1. Quite a difference in the abilities between the upper riders here and the lower class riders who started out first. Makes that slick turn look real easy. It's real critical to get lined up for these roots and rocks right at this turn. And he's through with a 1. Donato Miglio from Italy, next rider. Donato started out the season kind of slow. He had a serious ski accident earlier this spring. And he recovered from his injuries, and now he's riding real good. Real nice, smooth rider. He's had some very good performances in his last few trials events. Nice ride with a clean, and he had a clean on his second loop and a 3 on his third loop. Number 1 ranked rider in World Observed Trials, Thierry Michaud from France. Thierry had a 1 second loop and a 2 on his third loop. Takes a dab there on that slick part. Thierry's riding a new 303 Fanic. Just out this year. Nice job of balancing there. And he takes a 1. Steve Saunders from England. Last year was riding the factory Honda. Switched over to a 303 Fanic for this year's ride. Doing very well on it. He had a clean on his second loop and a 5 on his third loop. Hung up there in the slick roots. Takes a 1. Yeah, nice bit of riding for the 1. Jordi Terrace from Spain now riding on the new TR34 Beta. Jordi's probably one of the best trick riders ever to come onto the trial scene in the last couple of years. Jordi had a clean his second loop and a 1 his third loop. Pascal Couturier had a 1, a clean, and a 3. Gilles Bergat, a 3, a clean, and a 1. Gabino Renales, 2 clean and a 1. Andrew Codina had a 1 and 2 cleans in this section. Real nice ride for a clean. And we're at section number 2, just a little ways down from number 1. We watch Steve Saunders in this very difficult entrance. And Steve's going to be scored a 5 right here, stopping too long with his foot down. Steve had a 3 a second loop and a 5 on his third loop through this section. A lot of spectators around this section now. Real good crowd control, keeping the spectators back so everybody gets a chance to see the section. Pascal Couturier from France riding the Merlin. Pascal gets through the probably most difficult part of the section. He had a 3 the second loop and a 5 on his third loop. Kind of a difficult off-camber uphill portion of the section. A left turn back down over the slick rocks again. And then at the bottom of the hill, it's a right turn. Back up the hill, left turn to the exit, and he scored a 3. Thierry Michaud from France. He had a 3 a second loop and a 5 his third. Nice bit of trick riding there from Thierry. And he scored a 3. Andrew Codina from Spain on the 325cc gas. Gets off his line a bit here. Gets over on the slick rocks and stiffs into a hole. And Andrew scores 3 5s on this section. Jordi Terrace from Spain. Last rider we'll watch through this section. Jordi had a 3 a second loop and a 5 his third loop. Donato Miglio had 3 3s in this section. Gilles Bregat, 2 3s and a 5. And Tony Scarlett with a 3 and 2 5s. Nice maneuver there to set himself up for the exit. And he scored a 3. And entering section number 3 over the big rock, Rousses from Spain. On the gas. Cabino had a 3 his second ride and a 5. His third time through this section. Hard part of the section coming up here over this rock. A lot of 5s are taken right here. Pascal Couturier from France. Kind of hard to tell where to ride on these rocks. They were all real slick in the woods here. Pascal had a 5, a 3, and a 5. Andrew Codina from Spain. Finds a bit of traction on one of the rocks. Andrew had a 3 and a 5 his second and third loops. And he scored a 5 his first time through. Thierry Michaud, the next rider. Thierry won the French rounds in 1985 and 1986. Thierry had a 3 and a 5 his second and third loops. This is the most difficult part of the section. And Thierry fights his way through here, and he scored a 3. Steve Saunders had a 5, a 3 and a 5. Donato Miglio, 2 3s and a 5. Tony Scarlett, 2 3s and a 5. Gilles Regat, a 3, a 5, and a 3. And Diego Bozes had 3 3s. Jordi Terrace now riding. Jordi had the best score in this section. He had a 2 and a 3 his last 2 rides. Eddie Lejeune won the 1982, 83, and 84 French rounds. And Gilles Regat won it in 1981. Jordi's going to take just a little different line over this big rock. He'll go a bit more to the right, which means after he gets over the rock, he'll have to make more of a trick turn on the other side to get set up for the exit. This is where it's nice to know how to do the trick riding, as he is now set up for the big rock and also for the rest of the section. Real nice ride, almost 5's the exit, and he scored a 3. Gilles Regat from France, entering section number 4. Gilles had a 1 the second loop and a 3 on his third loop.
Gilles took a lot of time in this section on this corner balancing. And it was necessary to cut a bit of that off. A lot of the spectators are following the riders around these first few sections since they were close together. And up the ledge. A left turn back up the hill, over another ledge, and he scored a 3. Jordy Terrace making a nice trick turn there. Jordy had a 5 his second loop and a 1 his third loop. Steve Saunders had a 1, a 2, and a 3. Pascal Couturier, 2 1s and a 3. Renato Miglio, a 1, a 5, and a 3. Tony Scarlett with a clean, a 3, and a 5. Gabino Renales with 2 2s and a 5. And Andrew Codina with a 5, a 3, and a 5. Tony Scarlett, 3 Michaud, Diego Bozes, and Jordy Terrace were the only riders to clean this section. And Jordy makes the first clean. Diego Bozes from Italy, right in the Aprilia. Diego was riding a Montesa last year and switched over to Aprilia for this year's ride. Diego had a 5 on his second loop and a clean on his last loop. And he gets through here with a 3. 3 Michaud from France, world champion 1985 and 1986. World Championship for 1987 is pretty much up for grabs this year, although Jordy Terrace is presently leading in points. There he had a 3 on his second ride and a 2 on his third loop. French riders are all receiving quite a bit of support from the crowd. They have a PA system set up here, television crew, and an announcer to give the results of the sections as they become available. And Thury is going to score the second clean of the day. Section 8 was the easiest section in the trials with 1.8 points lost per rider. Section number 1 was the next easiest with 1.9 points lost per rider. Philippe Berlatier from France now riding. He's on the new Montesa for this year. Felipe did not finish the event due to a mechanical problem. And he's going to score a clean on this ride. Jordy Terrace, next rider. He's the only rider to clean this section all 3 times. Steve Saunders had a clean 2 ones. Diego Bozes, a clean, a 1 and a clean. Pascal Couturier had a clean, a 1 and a clean. Renato Miglio, a clean, a 5 and a 2. Tony Scarlett, 2 cleans and a 1. And Gabino Renales with a 5, a 1 and a 2. Larry Michaud, next rider. He had a 1 and a 3, second and third loops. We skipped section number 5 and was just a bit too far away. Larry takes a 1 right at that point. That's where most of the points were being taken in this section. And sections 6 and 7 will cover on the second loop. And Theory scored a 1. Hans Zenklusen from Switzerland is the rider. And he did not finish this event. This was a good, challenging section as it took an average of 3 points per rider. Jordy Terrace now riding. And the hardest part of the section now coming up. That one big rock. A lot of 5s were taken right there. And probably the next most difficult part is where he's at now. Making this right turn back into the water. And Jordy had 2 cleans and a 2. Bertrand Cordier from France checking out the first obstacle in the section. Gilles Bregat now riding. The mud on the banks, along with the roots, made this section real slick. And Gilles takes a 5 his first time through. He had a 3 a second loop and a 1 his last time through. Steve Saunders had 2 cleans and a 3. Pascal Couturier, a clean, a 5 and a 1. Renato Miglio, a 2. And 2 3s. And Tony Scarlett had a clean, a 5 and a 1. Larry Michaud had the best rides in this section. He had a clean on his second loop and a 1 on his third loop. And he cleans it his first time through. Diego Bozes now riding. Diego had a clean on his second loop and a 5 on his third loop. And nice ride with a 1. From sections 8 and 9, where we just were, It was about a 2-kilometer walk to this main highway. Sections 10, 11, and 12 were on the opposite side, about 1 kilometer up this creek from here. These 5 sections were about 16 kilometers from the start. There was a major traffic jam here all day as spectators tried to follow the riders, and as a result, no parking close to the sections was possible. With cars being parked on both sides of this narrow highway, one-way traffic was usually the result. This is where a street bike would have been useful, that is, until the third loop when the rains came. We're now on our way to sections 13 and 14, which were on the way back to the start area. Located just beside a beautiful lake, these 2 sections were dry rocks for a change and took just under 3 points per rider. These were the last sections covered for the first loop. First loop results were Jordy Terrace with 14, Thierry Michaud 15, Diego Bozes with 16, Steve Saunders with 17, Tony Scarlett with 17, Renato Chiaberto with 21, Pascal Couturier with 28, Ezekiel Reagan 32, Gilles Brigat with 35, and Laurent Cartanovis with 35. Second loop results were Steve Saunders with 17, Diego Bozes with 21, Thierry Michaud with 22, Pascal Couturier with 22, Jordy Terrace with 24, Thierry Girard with 24, Laurent Cartanovis with 26, Tony Scarlett with 28, Gabino Renales with 31, and Gilles Brigat with 32. Once again, a short walk from the main highway over to sections 13 and 14. Michael Triani from France, riding section 13. Michael had a 5 and a 3, the second and third loops. This section went up and down this rocky hillside, and there were a lot of loose rocks in here to change one's line. Most difficult part of the section is right here, making this right turn back up the hill to the exit. And Michael scored a 1. Michael Renard from Belgium, riding one of the few 254-stroke Hondas entered in this event. Michael had a 5 his second loop, and a 5 his third loop. Just about makes it out, and he scored a 5. Joel Dessounes from France on a new Montesa. He's another rider that did not finish the event. Got a real good ride going so far. Just about gets to the exit and takes a 5. Thierry Michaud is the last rider we'll watch in this section. Thierry had a clean on his second loop and a 3 on his third. Jordy Terrace had the best rides in this section with 2 cleans and a 2. Steve Saunders had 2 cleans and a 3. Diego Bozas had a 1, a clean, and a 3. Pascal Couturier, 2 cleans and a 5. Donato Miglio, a 1, a clean, and a 5. And Tony Scarlett had a 1, a clean, and a 3. Nice ride from Thierry. He gets a clean. Section 14 was just on the other side of the hill from 13. Jonas Anderson from Sweden is now riding. He's going to take a clean, and he's another rider that did not finish the event. Thierry Michaud had a clean on his second loop, and he took a 5 on his third loop. Steve Saunders had 2 cleans and a 3. Jordy Terrace had a 1, a clean, and a 3. Donato Miglio, 1, 2, and a 5. And Tony Scarlett with 2 cleans and a 3. And Thierry scored a clean. There was a nice atmosphere around this section. PA system was set up, keeping all the spectators informed on the rider scores. Pascal Couturier, the next rider, with a clean his second loop and a 5 his third loop. The last half of the third loop, scores were a bit higher, mainly because of a rainstorm that moved up the valley and made all these sections a lot slicker than they are now. And Pascal scores a clean on his first ride through. Diego Bozas from Italy had the best ride in this section. He had a 1 on his second loop and a clean on his third loop. And he scored a clean. Matt Neukirchen from Germany, riding section number 6, second loop. He had 3 5s. Gabino Renales from Spain, riding the gas. He had a 1 his first loop, a 3 on his third loop. Hardest part of the section is right here, going up that slick muddy bank and dropping back down into the water. And an easy line right here, straight across the water and up the hillside. And he scores a 1. Jordy Terrace now riding. He had a clean his first loop and a clean his third loop. And this should be a pretty easy section for Jordy. And he scored a 5. Leopoldo Bofill from Spain, another rider that did not finish this event. And he scores a 5. Bernard Cordonnier from Belgium He also did not finish this event. And he's riding a Fanick this year. And he takes a 5. A lot of points were taken right here at this point. Steve Saunders from England now riding. Steve had a clean on his first loop and a clean on his last loop. He had the best score on this section, along with Gilles Bregat. They each dropped 1 point. Peter John from Finland, riding a beta this year. And he takes a big 5. And Peter also did not finish this event. Philippe Berladier from France also did not finish. Diego Bozes had a 1, a clean, and a 5. Pascal Couturier, a 5, a 2, and a clean. Donato Miglio, 2, a 1, and a clean. Tony Scarlett, clean, a 5, and a 3. Gilles Bregat, 2 cleans and a 1. And Andrew Codina, a 3 and 2 cleans. Philippe takes a different line out of here. Off camber and slick, and he takes a 5. This was a real neat section, located just below Waterfall, with an old mill sitting at the top of it. Diego Bozes presently riding. Diego had a clean on his first loop, a 5 on his third. Fairly average section, taking just under 3 points per rider. Basically up the stream, left turn out, right turn back in, then left turn back up for the rest of the stream. And Diego scores a 1 on his second ride through. Thierry Michaud and Steve Saunders had the best rides in this section, each with 1 point lost. Jordy Terrace had a clean and 2 twos. Pascal Couturier, a 1, a clean and a 1. Donato Miglio with a 2, a 1, and a 5. Gilles Bregat with 2 threes and a 1. And Tony Scarlett with 2 cleans and a 3. Steve DuPont is now riding, and he also did not finish this event. And he's going to be scored a 3. And we drove back out to cover sections 10, 11, and 12 for the third loop. And we noticed some pretty dark clouds starting to work their way up this valley. A light rain is starting to fall now as we watch Michael Campagnier from France ride this section. The hardest part was right here, making this trick turn in the water and going up these slick rocks. Michael DNF this event, and he scores a 5 here. Ulrich Hoffmann from Germany had a 3 his second loop and a 3 his first loop. Tony Scarlett and Diego Bozes had the best scores in this section, each with 2 points lost. Thierry Michaud had a 1, a 2, and a clean. Steve Saunders, a 3, a 5, and a clean. Jordy Terrace, a clean, a 3, and a 1. Pascal Couturier, a 5, a 3, and a 2. And Donato Miglio with 2 2s and a 3. There was still a big traffic jam down at the highway, which we got caught in. And as a result, we missed the top riders going through these 3 sections. And Ulrich is going to be scored a 3 on his last ride. Section 11 was fairly easy as we watch former Japanese champion Ashiro Kuroyama riding his 4-stroke Honda. He's 39 years old and is presently the oldest active rider competing in world round events. And he scores 3 3s on this section. Thierry Michaud had a 1 and 2 cleans. Steve Saunders, 1 a clean and a 2. Jordy Terrace, 2 cleans and a 2. Diego Bozes, 2 1s and a 5. Pascal Couturier, a clean, a 1 and a 2. And Tony Scarlett had the best ride in this section with 3 cleans. And presently riding Jürgen Hutter from Germany with 3 3s in this section. Section 12 was a bit harder, taking almost 4 points per rider. Olivier Ronsheimer from Germany had a 5 and a 2 first 2 loops. Thierry Michaud had 2 1s and a 5. Steve Saunders had the best ride in this section with 3 cleans. And Olivier scored a 2 on his last ride through this section. Alain Berrigand had a 5 and a 3 his first 2 loops. Jordy Terrace had a 5, a 2, and a 5. Diego Bozes, a 1, 3, and a 2. Pascal Couturier, a 1, a clean, and a 5. Donato Miglio, 2 3s and a 5. And Tony Scarlett, a 3, a clean, and a 3. And Allen scores a 5 on this ride. This is how you fix a tubeless tire when you're 14 kilometers from the start. It's been raining pretty hard on our way back up here from section number 12. We're at section 15 now, just by the start area. This is a real good stadium type section, located on a rocky hillside with a lot of big boulders to go over. A lot of spectators around this section. Everybody's waiting for the rainstorm that's coming up the valley. Out of 90 riders that started this event, only 43 finished. Louis Galak is the first rider to beat the rain. Most of the riders have actually gone through here already and are finished. There's only about 10 riders who still have to ride this section. A lot of the spectators are wildly cheering the riders as they ride in the rain. Checker's trying to hold them down a bit, but as the rain starts, things are going to get a bit rowdy. And Lewis had a 1 and 2 3s. Thierry Michaud had a 3 and 2 5s. Pascal Couturier, a 1, a clean, and a 5. Donato Miglio, a 1 and 2 cleans. Cabina Renales, a clean, a 2 and a 5. And Andrew Codina, a 1, a 3, and a 5. Thierry had a 3 and a 5 his first and second loops. And he goes out of bounds his third loop for a 5. Gilles Bergat, next rider. Spectators are really starting to get into this now. It's starting to rain pretty hard now, but the hardest is yet to come. Gilles had a 2 and a 1 on his first 2 rides. Kind of a trick riding area right there. Hop up onto this big rock and bounce the front end over to the right and the back end over to the left. And then go over a bigger portion of the same rock to the exit. And he scores a 2. And it's raining about the hardest now as Steve Saunders shows up and rides a section. Still a lot of traction on this hillside to get up to the top and make his way back down. Little pieces of hail are also falling. Also, the temperature is starting to drop now pretty rapidly. This event was located up in the mountains at a ski area. Elevation here was about 6,000 feet. Steve had a clean and a 1 on his first 2 rides. And he takes 1 here on his 3rd loop, which is still good enough to beat second place finisher Jordy Terrace by 3 points. And Steve becomes the first Englishman since 1975 to win a French World Round. Martin Lampkin won it back then on a Bultaco. Diego Bozes now riding. He finished 3rd in this event. Diego has not finished 1st in a World Round this year. He had a 2nd in Belgium and a 2nd in Germany. He's also the only rider to clean this section, all 3 rides. Temperature's dropping quite a bit after the rains moved through. It's pretty much stopped raining now. Closing festivities are next. Awards presentation. Diego's the last rider through this section. Closing ceremonies were held about 2 hours later. This gave everybody a chance to warm up and dry off inside the big tent. There were a lot of prizes that were given to the riders for this event. A gold-plated precision clock was the first place prize for Steve Saunders. A big grandfather's clock was the second place prize for Jordy Terrace. And a clock about half that size was the 3rd place prize for Diego Bozes. As we listen to a bit of closing music from this neat French country and western band, I would like to commend the French Trials Club for an excellent job of organizing and carrying out this event.